Imagine a world where machines think independently, where underwater civilizations thrive, or where time travel is as common as a morning commute. These ideas may sound like the stuff of dreams, but they reside in the vibrant universe of speculative fiction. This genre dares to ask the boldest question in literature: what if? Welcome, everyone. Today, we will journey through the intricate landscapes of speculative fiction, a genre that doesn't just entertain but interrogates, innovates, and inspires. We will examine its historical roots, explore the minds of its most influential writers, and unpack why it matters more than ever in a world shaped by climate change, artificial intelligence, and rapid technological evolution. Prepare to challenge the reality itself. Let's start. What is speculative fiction? At its core, speculative fiction is a vast and imaginative literary umbrella. It encompasses stories that extend beyond the boundaries of our current world, embracing alternate realities, futuristic technologies, supernatural occurrences, and dystopian societies. Unlike traditional realistic fiction, which seeks to mirror the world as it is, speculative fiction asks us to explore what the world could be. This genre fuses multiple subgenres: science fiction, fantasy, dystopia, horror, and treats them as a laboratory for thought experiments. It is a realm where authors test out big ideas like: what if humans evolved differently? What if we colonized other planets? What if technology outpaced ethics? As such, speculative fiction doesn't predict the future, but it equips us to imagine it. Let's dive into the brief history of speculative fiction. The roots of speculative fiction stretch back to the dawn of storytelling. In ancient myths like the Epic of Gilgamesh, we find early reflections on immortality and human limitation, central themes in speculative writing. But it was in the 19th century that the genre began to crystallize in modern form. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, published in 1818, is often credited as the first true science fiction novel. It married scientific inquiry with moral questioning and launched a tradition that endures today. The 20th century saw the genre explode. Visionaries like H.G. Wells used science fiction to critique imperialism and class inequality, while Isaac Asimov explored robotics and artificial intelligence long before they become real world technologies. In the 1940s, Robert Heinlein popularized the term speculative fiction, arguing that it captured something broader than science fiction or fantasy. It was a way to reflect human fears, ambitions, and transformations. Over time, speculative fiction has matured, expanding its theme to include gender, race, environmental collapse, and digital identity. It continues to evolve, becoming ever more relevant to the question and crisis of our time. Then you have this question: why study speculative fiction today? In our era of accelerating change, speculative fiction has never been more vital. Far from being mere escapism, it serves as a powerful toolkit for critical thinking. As we navigate AI driven societies, face climate disruptions, and redefine biology through genetic engineering, speculative fiction trains us to ask: how might technology change what it means to be human? What new forms of power, justice, or oppression could emerge? It allows us to stimulate futures, some hopeful, others harrowing, and consider the ethical implications before they arrive. For scholars, policymakers, scientists, and artists, studying speculative fiction fosters skills in ethical reasoning, creative imagination, and social critique. It teaches us to think laterally and act responsibly in a world where today's science can become tomorrow's reality. Prominent writers and works. Let's meet the storytellers who have not just imagined the future but shaped our understanding of it. Margaret Atwood, in her Handmaid's Tale, explores a theocratic dystopia where women's rights are erased. Through her chilling world building, Atwood offers a searching critique of gender politics and authoritarian control. William Gibson, with Neuromancer, pioneered the cyberpunk genre, envisioning a future dominated by corporate power, digital consciousness, and human machine fusion. His work remains a touchstone for understanding our entanglement with technology. Next, Frank Herbert's. Frank Herbert's Dune is an epic blend of ecological awareness, religion, and political intrigue. His vision of resource control and planetary stewardship feels increasingly relevant in an age of climate anxiety. And then we have Octavia Butler, whose parable of the sower introduces a dystopian America ravaged by environmental collapse and social unrest. Her work explores race, resilience, and the spiritual dimensions of survival. These authors don't merely write stories, they pose hard questions and they compel us to reconsider what we value and what we are willing to lose. Number 5, key objectives of this genre. So, what drives speculative fiction and why does it matter? First, it challenges societal norms. Books like The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin question rigid gender binaries, imagining fluidity in identity and culture. Such narratives helps us reflect on how much of our reality is socially constructed. Second, it predicts futures, often eerily accurately. George Orwell's 1984 foresaw mass surveillance, while Black Mirror explores our obsession with digital lives. These stories force us to face the consequence of unchecked innovation. Third, speculative fiction is a space to explore ethics. Should we clone humans? What happens when AI becomes sentient? Novels like Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro presents deeply human dilemma wrapped in futuristic context. Ultimately, the genre asks, what kind of world do we want to create and for whom? Let's have a deep dive on two literary works to understand the speculative fiction. Number 1, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Huxley's future society is a hyper technologized civilization governed by genetic engineering, mass production, and psychological conditioning. Here, speculative fiction becomes a tool to project the logical extremes of industrial capitalism, utilitarian ethics, and behavioral science. Through the world state, Huxley extrapolates trends present in the early 20th century, such as Fordist efficiency and psychological manipulation, into a fully mechanized vision of human life. Elements of speculative fiction in Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Number 1, world building. Huxley meticulously constructs a rigid caste based society where humans are not born but manufactured and preordained for specific social roles. This engineered stratification forms the basis of systematic control. Number 2, technological dominance. Soma, the mood altering drugs, symbolizes the novel's critique of using technology for social pacification rather than liberation. Artificial reproduction and hypnopedic learning replace natural growth and critical thought. Number 3, loss of individuality. Characters such as Bernard Marx and John the Savage highlight the spiritual and intellectual consequences of enforced conformity. The speculative world becomes a mirror that reflects back the dangers of sacrificing complexity and choice for predictability and comfort. Now dive into objectives and thematic depth. Huxley's speculative objective is not merely to warn against a specific future, but to critique the seductive nature of power cloaked in utopian ideals. His vision serves as a cautionary tale about technological determinism, social engineering, and the erasure of the individual. The novel probes questions of what is the cost of happiness when artificially imposed? Can society remain moral without personal freedom? How does the pursuit of stability undermine human dignity? What its contemporary resonance? In an era of algorithmic curation, digital sedation, and bioengineering, Huxley's warnings are hauntingly prophetic. The novel interrogates modern preoccupations with comfort, efficiency, and instant gratification, suggesting that the true danger lies in a system that abolishes the need for resistance by eliminating desire itself. Now dive into the second book, The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. Le Guin imagines Geethan, a planet inhabited by ambisexual beings who embody male or female traits only during a periodic phase called chema. This biological structure becomes the cornerstone of novel's world building, enabling an investigation of gender, identity, and political alliance from a past binary perspective. Elements of speculative fiction in this work. Number 1. Radical alterity. Le Guin's construction of Geethan is not merely a gender experiment but a comprehensive cultural reimagining. The absence of fixed gender roles disrupts earthbound assumption about war, leadership, and emotional expressions. Number 2. First contact narrative. The Envoy Genly AI functions as a narrative lens, and its ethnocentric misunderstandings illuminate the speculative value of cultural relativism. His struggle to interpret Githanian society underscores the difficulty and necessity of empathy and open mindedness. Number 3. Philosophical inquiry. Le Guin uses speculative elements to explore the limits of language, the performity of gender, and the political potential of ambivalence. The Cathanians are not utopian, but they present an alternative epistemology that challenges binary thinking of humans. What are the objectives and thematic depth of this work? The novel's speculative premise serves multiple objectives. Number 1. Gender deconstruction. By removing fixed gender from a fictional society, Le Guin creates space to examine how deeply gender informs not just institutions but everyday interactions and self perception. Number 2. Diplomatic ethics. The tension between Kahide and Augurian and the envoy's mission reflect real world concerns with diplomacy, colonialism, and alliance building. Le Guin's speculative lens reveals that understanding the other is not a passive act but a transformative process. Number 3. Humanism and relational ethics. The novel insists on the primacy of relationship, suggesting that comprehension across difference, not domination or assimilation, is the key to coexistence. So, what are its contemporary resonance? As a global conversation around gender fluidity, trans rights, and post binary identities evolve, Le Guin's novel becomes increasingly persistent. Her speculative critique is not merely academic, it invites re evolution of one's own positionality and assumptions. In a polarized world, the left hand of darkness reaffirms the necessity of pluralism and humility. Let's dive into the concluding remarks and future scope of speculative fiction. Speculative fiction is not just about distant planets or fantastical creatures. It is a powerful lens for examining inequality, environmental collapse, and the ethics of emerging technologies. It challenges us to think deeply about the kind of future we are building. As students, researchers, and future leaders, your engagement with this genre is more than academic, it should be visionary. Perhaps the stories you read today will shape the policies, innovations, or cultural shifts of tomorrow. Maybe one day your ideas will leap off the page and into the world. The future is unwritten. Speculate boldly, write with purpose, and never stop asking, what if?